if it wasn't for Kings of Fish and building our brand and all the storytelling we were doing, I don't know that any of those things would have happened. You know, we would have just been swept away like everybody else.
Price tag's still on there. And the name brand of the shirt.
So why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about that, the history of the brand and kind of where you are now, and then we're going to get into the whole Amazon show and how all that came about,
Sure.
and some of the crazy stuff that you guys have been through the last couple of years.
Okay. So business was originally started in 1956, 70 years ago, by my grandfather, my dad, and my dad's best friend. They were 15, as the show will tell you. My grandfather said, hey, I'll pay for you guys to go to school or you can go to work, and they hated school, so they just worked. And at the time it was just a 200 square foot little seafood shop in the city of San Pedro, which is 2 hours north of here in the LA waterfront. And I mean, the backstory is my grandfather was a bookie, so he was really just showing it away. He just needed to show income. But the 15-year-olds weren't part of that. They just worked and worked and worked, and they built it into something pretty extraordinary. Eventually, in 1959, it moved down to the waterfront, took over a location called Norm's Landing, and they just kept innovating, trying stuff, got into smoked seafood for a while, started doing crab and lobster, and then around the late 70s, the area was up for redevelopment, and we got evicted and had to work out of a parking lot. And eventually, we were able to work a deal to have a new space, which we built. I think it was built in just over a year. It was Good Friday, actually, of 1982 when we opened. And that became San Pedro Fish Market. It had about 300 seats, and then we proceeded to have the worst El Nino on record, and all the seats were outside. So everybody mortgaged their homes, just about lost everything. But nobody gave up. They're tenacious, innovative, and just kept trying to throw things against the wall to see what would stick. And one of the things that was showing up at the time was this thing called fajitas, right? There was a El Paso Cantina, later became Acapulco's, right down the way. And they had these chicken and steak fajitas on the menu no one had ever seen before. And my uncle had the idea, he goes, we got a lot of frozen fish that we use for smoked seafood. Let's just cut it up, we'll throw it on the grill, we'll make up our own seasoning, we'll add bell pepper, tomato, onions, you know what, we'll throw in some red potatoes like they do on the East Coast, and we'll use a local baker to do garlic bread, and this thing just evolved into these giant trays of seafood, all cafeteria trays, family style. And we got through it, and we grew and we grew and we grew to the point where we had 3,000 seats. I think almost 2 million customers a year were coming through. Made it through the pandemic because all the seating was outside, so we were able to kind of pivot around and continue to work that way. And it just, we set 4 Guinness World Records. I know I was telling Rev about those last night if he's in here. And we did some pretty amazing things, but when we were doing the world records, we were being filmed for a TV show. And it turned into a sizzle reel that got shopped all over the place, but it looked a little bit too much like Duck Dynasty with seafood at a time when Duck Dynasty wasn't the most popular. They had some bad press, so nobody picked it up. But I thought, why don't we just do this on our own? You know, so we created Kings of Fish, which basically became, you know, kind of a spin-off of what these guys had created, which they called the Fishmongers. And I still have it. You can find it on our website and YouTube pages. But that really changed the trajectory of the business because it gave us the opportunity to tell stories nobody knew. And at that time, they were about to redevelop the San Pedro waterfront again, and there was a threat that we were going to get evicted again. But I thought if we could control the narrative, hold the story, we could not only build the brand, but the goal was to become irreplaceable to the developers. So,
right.
I'm jumping through all your questions.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So speaking of that, when you did have to relocate, can you talk about that? I mean, that was very dramatic on the show.
Yeah. So that was a man. I think that's been going on for 15 years. So a developer was chosen about 15 years ago. And the idea was, we're going to kick everyone out and you can come back later. And so I was leveraging the television show, also social media was becoming a thing at the time. And you know, at one point there was a narrative going around on ABC News, a lot of the major networks, that a local person got in front of the TV and he had some media connections, and he was a restaurant owner and he's a friend, but he went on TV and he said, you know, they got to tear all this down. Drugs, murder, crime, rape. It's got to go. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's our business. But nobody knew, right? So I took that clip and put it on our Facebook page. And at the time, I think we only had 10,000 followers. Now I think we're at 360,000 on Facebook. But people from all over the country responded to that, going, that's where I bring my family. I've been going there for years. Who made up this story? And I realized we could rally people in our favor if we needed to. So social media, the show, and some of the other things we did, it started to build like a coalition of our customer base that we didn't even know we had. Because we weren't so busy, head down, butt up, we weren't really talking to the customers. Now I had a way to communicate and actually ask for help where we needed it. So now you fast forward, and the goal of becoming irreplaceable worked. We were able to show our value to the developers, but the development was still going to happen, and how it was going to affect us was unclear. And it was spinning, and they'll never get it done. They can't find their financing. They don't have their permits. There's environmental issues. Just keep doing what you're doing. I go, are you sure? Because it looks like they're going to do this thing, and then they did. Right around what year is 2022 of November. The Port of LA was our landlord all this time, and we have a good relationship with them. They're like, listen, we got to hand over the keys to the developer. They've got timelines and you're in the way. So we're like, oh my God, I guess we're actually going to have to leave. So by March 3rd, 3 years ago, we left the buildings, as you saw here, and we reached out to the developers. I go, look, you need us, we need you. How can we make this work? And they go, well, there is this parking lot that we're not using, and we don't know when we're going to have access to it, but maybe you could go there. And so in 60 days, we moved into this parking lot. We were able to get 900 of our seats crammed into it. We got a couple mobile kitchens, like 20-foot kitchens, portable bathrooms. There's no plumbing, no electricity, so everything was running on diesel. And what else? It was like, some of it was on propane. It was just crazy. And then we had to go to our tech partners, right? It was like, well, this is our chance to roll Toast out into this location, because guys, it's a blank slate. We can reinvent everything we couldn't get done in the older location. So Toast came on, and then we used Me and You with QR codes, and we put them on all the tables. We integrated in with Toast, and we just opened it up on, I think it was Mother's Day, actually, which was probably a mistake in retrospect. But we just didn't want to wait. And we were on track. If it didn't rain, because we had really unseasonable rain, if it didn't rain, we would have done $16 million out of that parking lot. We did 11. We got to 11, which wasn't bad, but it was like not enough.
Right. Well, you were used to doing like 30.
Yeah, and there's like, who doesn't want to get paid on the upper side of the company? And so, we've had to make some hard choices, hard decisions, but we made it work. Then, the idea was, we'll be in this parking lot for 6 months. And ironically, that Acapulco's location where we learned about fajitas, well, they got torn down too, but there's no plans for that 33,000 square foot pad. So we made a request. It's like, we'd like to move there. We think we can do something temporary until we can rebuild in the original location. And we think we can get over there in 6 months, but it ended up taking 30. So instead of $1.2 million and reopening in 6 months, it exploded to like $4 million, because no one had ever done it before. There's no box to check, by the way, for 5 years of temporary location. And we actually had an entire kitchen complex built by a company called Mobile Kitchens USA, or MKUSA. And they took a series of containers, 60-foot and 20-footers, retrofitted them into a kitchen complex and welded it all together and dropped it on site above ground, figured out how to get it tapped into all the utilities, because we're there way too long for it to be considered temporary. But nobody in the city, you guys ever deal with the city, if there's no box to check, they're not going to make one up for you. So it took a lot of help. Sometimes I don't know if the politicians helped or made it worse. I'm not sure, but we opened October 1st. In this new spot, we managed to get 1,500 seats with enough space to add another 500 if we need to. And as of now, we're on track to break $20 million out of there. So
Amazing.
we're doing, thank God.
So how many locations do you have officially now then?
Well, with that one, we're down to 2. We changed our strategy after the pandemic and the eviction and stuff. So we have one in the city of Long Beach, used to be Joe's Crab Shack, and we took that over. We opened that one January 30th, 2020, and then, 6 years ago today, everything went to crap. So we got through about 6 weeks, and then we had to continually pivot and reinvent that business too, but now it's doing pretty well.
Okay.
And then we signed a 49-year lease to rebuild on our original location. We figured we made it there for 70. I think we can figure out in the next 5 decades. But what's cool about that is for those of you who may or may not know this, if you have a long-term lease like that, it's no longer considered, it can be considered an asset as if you own it, even if you don't own the land. So it creates an exit strategy for the 4th generation, because I'm 3rd. If people are like, I don't want to do this anymore, you could actually bundle that up and have an equity event where you could sell the remaining 30 or 40 years of the lease as like you own the real estate.
Right.
So that's going to be location number 3. Actually, that'll probably be number 4. Number 3 is in the city of Monterey, where we signed a 30-year lease for a building on their old Fisherman's Wharf, a 17,000 square foot building. Also been there 70 years, and it's showing up now as we're trying to fix it. But the thing about this is, if it wasn't for Kings of Fish and building our brand and all the storytelling we're doing, I don't know that any of those things would have happened. We would have just been swept away like everybody else. But the story, it's compelling. People want to be part of it. Like the city council in Monterey, they put an RFP out and had to go talk to them. And it's interesting. They said, look, we don't want gentrification. We love our wharf the way it is. You're not going to come in here and change anything. And I go, listen, man, I walked down that wharf today and I almost started crying because it was like walking through the old village where we started that just got torn down. It's the last thing I would do to your community is anything that would take away its character. Actually really miss what was taken away from us.
Right.
And I'm friends with the developers. I understand what happened, but I get like there's a certain sentimentality about like things don't last like they do in Europe.
Yeah.
Buildings are there for billions of years, and here they're gone like in a generation. So having the story and being able to show people, no, we've got a 70-year history. We take care of our employee. One of our core values is family, because we feel that you should always make sure that your employees feel like family, you treat your customers like family, and your community is most important because it is your family. And if you don't hold those 3 things, I think that's where there's a break in your ethics.
Right, so you mentioned the social media, the storytelling kind of kept you alive. So was that easy to convince, you're a 3rd generation, the older people in your family?
Oh.
Were they all into it, or were they like, no, kicking and screaming? No
Even
way?
my generation's still kicking and screaming. I mean, Sean and I just had this conversation in Las Vegas on a panel, and my brother, what did he say? I thought he was crazy. Why are we doing all this? But here we are in a panel talking about it. I'm like, yeah. No, their sort of philosophy is just shut up, be quiet, head down, butt up, and work. And I respect that. I don't have an issue with that. What I had an issue with was the rapid change we were seeing and how you get steamrolled if you don't put your head up once in a while and extend your hand to stop it. Mm-hmm. And telling your story is the most effective way I've found to become an obstacle to something that could otherwise wipe you out. So social media was a great venue there. When we first Kings of Fish originally was only going to be meant for social media in 5-minute, like 4-story arcs.
And were you shooting that yourself, or
yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You just had this idea one day. You're like, I want to do this show, or how did that work?
Well, when these guys filmed us, we set 4 Guinness World Records, and it was filmed and turned into a sizzle reel to sell, and they gave it to us. Like, we don't know what to do with it. We really like you guys, so we're just going to give it to you. Do what you want, because it's not going to get bought. And I had created a line of frozen meals based on our top 3 menu items. And I was like, locally in California, it was easy because people knew who we are, but like HEB in Texas had no idea who we were.
Like frozen meals at a grocery store?
Yep. Yeah, it was our own grocery store. It was in the frozen section. At one point, we were in about 6,000 stores. We shut it down during the pandemic because things just got too crazy, but it was shrimp with veggies, potatoes, and the seasoning, and it was all one meal. It could cook in 10 minutes, and it was exactly what we saw in the stores.
Okay.
But if you didn't know the store, like, it was just another shrimp product. So I brought that sizzle reel to HEB, and I showed it to them, like, this is who we are, this is what we do. And they're like, okay, what channel is that on? I go, no, there's nothing else, it's just this. And no, seriously, what channel? That was really good. We want to buy all the product now before the TV show's a hit. I'm like, I don't have any other content.
Right.
So they bought all this product, but we didn't have any other content to market it. So it all just sat there on HEB shelves, got bought. But I came back and why don't we just do it ourselves? So we put a team together. Tim is our executive producer. He does Bar Rescue, Below Deck, American Chef.
How do you even get hooked up with him though? I mean, you say we put a team together.
You know,
That makes it sound a lot
you go
easier
to
do.
places like this and you meet people that know somebody and you just network, and the more you get to meet people and talk to them and build relationships with them, the more like, yeah, I know this guy, you should talk to this guy or talk to this guy. And so Tim and his partner at the time were like, and this was 10 years ago, I think, or 8 years ago. They're like, TV's changing, everyone's losing their jobs, everything's going to streaming. This giant, the whole office I work in for the company he was at is empty. I'm working from home. I think we have to pivot away from the traditional way of making content and start doing it on our own. So he could do the whole thing on an iPhone,
Okay.
and then he can bring it to his editing bay and create those episodes that way at a very low cost. Like a television show could be $2 million, sometimes, an episode, sometimes a minute. It depends on what kind of special effects you have into it. And ours, sometimes it's as much as $2,000 a minute, sometimes it's less. It just depends on how many people are working on it. But we wanted it to be television quality. And so when we started releasing the first 4 episodes, I got all this pushback. No one wanted to deal with it.
And when you say you released it, you just put it on your own Facebook.
It was just on Facebook, yeah. But we saw $1 million jump in sales that month.
Amazing.
So I'm like, okay, this is totally worthwhile. We need to do more of these, and that's what happened. We just kept doing more of them.
So then, how did you get hooked up with Amazon?
Probably talked about that last night. So during the pandemic, a distributor through the contacts I had made reached out and said, if you can make this into 8 episodes at 22 minutes each, and we had kind of given up, we weren't even going to do it at this point, which is a different story. But he said, Pepsi will pay you. I have a Pepsi contact who'll come up with I think it was $200,000, and we'll get it on Amazon Prime for you. So we started working it, and we talked everybody into doing this bigger season as kind of a let's see what we could do. And then he turned out to be a bit of a dirtbag. Never got the money, Pepsi. I don't know if you have that check floating around out there, but still trying to get it. And we ended up just biting the bullet and finishing it on our own because we had a commitment to do it. And we were honoring my family member that passed away, Tommy Jr. actually, at the time he died from COVID. And that's why we weren't going to do it anymore. But it's interesting, like, my father passed away when he was 56 and Tommy Jr. was the same age. And we met with his kids, and I'm like, I don't have anything of my dad except a few random videos and photographs. Like, there's nothing there. Because you guys have 7 seasons of your dad being himself that you could look at any time you want. I mean, that's really your dad right there. And so they're like, well, let's do this last season to memorialize him, whether we got the Pepsi money or not. We just wanted to complete that. We didn't know we were going to get evicted. That wasn't part of the storyline, that we added that in later and thought, well, you got to put that in.
That makes some good TV.
Yeah, so the cliffhanger. Oh, you guys know how it ends. We're on track to do 24 million, so.
Right.
But.
And you're shooting another season right now, right?
Yeah, so we are shooting another season right now, but we're teaming up with our media partners to find sponsors. Like US Foods is one of our primary sponsors for season 2. Our insurance, Trucordia, I don't think they're here. Rocket Wagner Bread is another one. So, we have these conversations, and we don't want it to be commercials. We really want to do is integrate them into the storyline. And it could be product placement, or it could be like, hey, Cisco wasn't helping us the way we thought we would during this eviction thing, and US Foods kind of swooped in and said, we'll sponsor the show and give you different things that you need.
Then will you tell that story then?
Hell yeah. No, that'll be 100% in there.
When you say they weren't stepping in, is it just because you were doing less business? Or
yeah,
what?
we were doing so much volume, and then we weren't. And I don't think it was necessarily anybody higher up at Cisco. I think the sales rep was focusing where he could get the best return. I wasn't really involved. But what I would get are the breakdowns, like, we're not getting a delivery here, this isn't happening, and we're in this dire straits. So we were like, all right, what do we need to do to build partnerships that are going to get us through this tough time? Because that 30 months sucked, like $11 million is a lot of money to produce, but when your business is designed to produce 30 and you have, savings because you have to rebuild the original location to get sucked into opening a temporary one, it could put everybody in a bad mood. So what we're really trying to do is illustrate how it benefits our vendors to stick with us through this tough time, because we're going to come out bigger than we ever were before. And we'd love you to be part of that story, because if you help us make it happen, we'll promote your brand that way.
Right.
So
you're shooting now. Do you have any idea when we can watch it?
Yeah, where are we now? March?
Yeah.
I think by the end of the year it'll be done. We're almost done. We got most of the content. We're just lining up a couple more sponsors to wrap up. that part of the storyline.
Awesome. Okay, so you got the show. So then, besides the show, what's next? Are you trying to open new locations or just expand the ones you have?
No, we have our bigger goal is to try to open a location every year for the next decade. So we're in a lot of talks with the city of Anaheim. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the resort area, and the guys that are in the business development area of Anaheim are all in Long Beach that helped us open the Long Beach location. So we have a good relationship with them. Monterey and rebuilding San Pedro. And then I don't know, I really like this area. Sean Walchef says I should be thinking about it.
Will you franchise ever, or are you going to stay?
I would be open to that once we kind of get back to where we were in the next 2 years. I think there's an opportunity there for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let me open it up for questions. Who has a question? Thank you, Mandy. I told Mandy she didn't need to do questions, and then I decided to pull an audible on her. Who has a question for Michael? Come on. Oh, good, we got one up here.
I'll think of one while she's
Okay.
Perfect, no
Thanks.
pressure.
I was so comprehensive, I answered them all preemptively.
Makes my job easy.
All right, what you guys have built is amazing, amazing.
Thank you.
How do you get a location to 20 million? I mean, that's like, honestly, got to be in the top 100 grossing restaurants in the country.
Yeah, top 10.
So how many people are you
Top
serving a day?
10.
Yeah, how many people are you serving a day? How are you doing it? Just please
Yeah.
give us some knowledge.
Man, I asked this, I would never wait in the lines that we have, so I don't know how to answer that. It evolved over years, and there's different ways that I look at it, right? On one hand, when we were originally granted the privilege to open this location, like 30 some years ago when we the first eviction, where the politicians went, listen, we can't, not everything could be lobster, steak, and white tablecloth. There's blue collar workers in the city that need a place to go by the water, and they should have that. And that's sort of what we designed it around, was a family experience. And we just innovated, and it was really listening to customers because, demographically the area changed. We had this huge Samoan customer base for a while. We had a Filipino customer base for a while. And then we had a Latino customer base that this sort of became the most loyal of all. And we never, we don't turn anyone away, and we'll offer and shift the seafood that we're selling based on what people are asking for, which I think is unique, which is probably hard to franchise, by the way.
Yeah.
But as we were, we would notice, like, I think we were selling tilapia as early as the late 80s, before anybody knew what it was, but customers were asking for it. And then we would have seafood coming in from different parts of Mexico. Huanchinango, Mexican red snapper, perico, cabrilla, were great seafood, but you wouldn't see those in a typical restaurant at the time. So our customer base knew they could come there and get it. And the other thing that we did was we made it very family friendly. So right now we have all picnic style benches, like the big white ones. And the reason for that is customers come now and say, listen, I used to come here when I was a little kid with my parents. I want my kids to have the same experience. So I have my parents, I have me, I have my kids, and in some cases they even have grandkids with them. So we have these 3 and 4 generations of people that come to visit us. And what blows my mind on the brand loyalty there is, this is happening now, but it was happening prior to us having to move, is our customer base, we started tracking, like, where they're coming from, because the technology was there. And we were like, wow, they're coming 100 miles. Matter of fact, we've got this huge contingency of people coming from Phoenix and from Vegas and from Bakersfield and from the Bay Area. And as we polled and talked to them, they were coming out. That's a 5-6 hour drive, if you don't know. And they're going home the same day.
Wow.
And then when they would get there, because at this time, by noon, our parking lot was filled on a Sunday. So they had to go figure out where we had to work with the Port of Los Angeles Police Department to help send people, direct them to the satellite lots. There's no clear path to walk back from those lots, by the way. So I would film them walking with strollers and wheelchairs and walkers a mile to stand in line to get in the building for an hour to 2 hours.
Wow.
And then when they got in, it was another hour before they could even get their food on a good day. And I just sat there like, I don't understand that. Like, I would never do this. And what people would say is, I only wait in lines at Disneyland and here. There's only 2 places I would wait in the line like this, is your place and Disneyland. And we realized it was they were going to the same places. They'd visit us when they're in town, and then if they weren't doing that round trip drive, if they were visiting from out of town, they would visit us in Disneyland the same day. And I was like, we're not a restaurant anymore. We're a destination or an experience. And I think that understanding that shift changed how we marketed the business. I had this other one thing when we first did Kings of Fish. I forgot to tell you this one. We were trying to figure out how to get eyeballs on it because, like I said, we had Facebook. And we were starting to blow up on Instagram, and I wasn't even following Instagram, but we were ranked in the top 10 most Instagram restaurants like 3 years in a row. And it wasn't by design, it was just that they were measuring geotagging, and we had 3,000 seats. So it was like Cafe Du Monde and Cat's Deli and us. And I'm like, this makes sense. But there was 3,000 seats of people geotagging and sharing their experience. So that was really cool. That helped, and we're on CNN and Time Magazine, they're all recognizing this. So I didn't have to do anything for that. That helped too. The other thing was, though, I wanted to figure out how to get eyeballs on the show, so we teamed up with a company called Food Beast. I don't know if you're familiar with Food Beast, right out of Orange County. And we had another connection that I knew somebody that knew somebody, and we got together, and they were trying to make their own television content as well. So I go, I'm gonna give you the 4 episodes in return for your 1 million eyeballs, because I want to augment what I have. And they're like, no, that's fine, but I think we're getting the better end of the deal. And I didn't know what they meant. So they showed up, like they rolled out of their college dorm. I'm like, oh my God, who are these guys? Nobody was wearing pants, it was weird. Nicest guys in the world. We do a lot of work with them, but they came and they're like, well, we want to do a video for you. Like, what do you serve? Or do you have something like a lot of cheese or something? I go, no, man, it's fish market. And we had these kitchens that we'd only activate on the weekends or holidays. And so they're turned off this day. And again, this was March. This was like March 1st or 2nd when they came down in 2017. And they pointed up at this menu that I didn't even know we had, menu board. And it said, well, what's that super tray up in there in the corner? And I'm like, I've never seen that before, but I'll make you a super tray. I don't know. So I made this giant tray of seafood, lobster and crab and king crab, lobster, swordfish, shrimp, scallops, octopus, big old mountain. And then I kind of left. I drank with them a little bit, had a beer, and then I had to go home. The video drops and it went viral almost instantly.
Wow.
Now I had to leave because my daughter, at the time we went to New York looking at colleges, and the Port of Los Angeles Police Department calls me. And they're like, Mike, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know why. It's March 3rd. I'm in New York looking at colleges with my daughter. He goes, listen, it's raining, it's March, and we're understaffed. To do what? We had to shut down freeway off-ramps. There's so many people coming to your place right now. I'm like, for what are you talking about? Like, I think we counted 30,000 customers in 10 days from every state in the country because this video went viral. And it wasn't anything we weren't already doing,
right.
But it got up to 55 million views. And it completely changed how social media can affect your business.
So then, everybody wants that one moment. So then what did you do? Like, how do you keep that going?
It happened so fast. We continue to tell stories. We continue to repost that content. We continue to work with Food Beast. They didn't know why it happened either. And we never were able, when we tried some different things, we did like the world's largest shrimp tray with them, which was a $2,000 stainless steel, 4x4 container, shallow, of just mountains of seafood. That got a lot of press too.
Yeah.
So we've continued to talk to the press, we continue to create content, we continue to try to optimize it as much as we can. I have an entire marketing team that I have to fight for, because no one in a company understands why are you spending so much money in marketing.
Right.
I don't know, didn't your income triple too? I thought I wasn't paying attention, that's how,
Right.
And so, like, continually doing that made a big difference. And where it showed up is on October 1st, when we finally, after 30 months, opened that temporary location. Our media, like our press, had the releases and the content we put out, we got over 970 million impressions.
Wow.
In like a month. And so the lines are back. They're waiting 2 hours to get in. Michael Beck was just there. He saw the crowd. We randomly popped in on a Sunday a couple weeks ago. I haven't even had the swordfish burrito yet. And the people are coming back, and they're coming in like parties of 10, and they're hanging out for the day by the water, and they're drinking a bunch of micheladas and enjoying shrimp trays and building memories with their family.
That's amazing.
Long
That's
answer.
amazing.
Sorry, did I get it all?
No, it was great. It was great. Well, we are out of time. I just want to say thank you so much, and I
You're
can't
welcome.
wait to see the next show. Let's give it
Thank
up.
you. Thank you all.